Hello, welcome back to LIVENODING. In this episode, I want to share how I created these scenes. It's basically, let me minimize this. So it's really simple. It's basically just this Susan head traveling along this curve. Okay, so it's I call this the double-headed worms because it is basically what it is. Like, if I delete everything and just leave one of them, it's just like a snake or like a worms with double-headed Suzanne. I might have done something similar, but not really, because I'm using geometry nodes and this is the whole nodes. Again, it might look complicated, but just look at the green lines. The green lines is really short. That means it's actually really simple. So we have Suzanne head that's being instanced at the end and the first points of the curve. Okay, so if I shorten the curve, first of all, I think the curve is too long. Let's shorten the curve and then resample it. Yeah, I can keep the worms like that. So now it's suddenly it's becoming really simple, right? So I think with the Suzanne head, I should also rotate it so it's facing the right way. But anyway, it's just curve that's traveling through the noise. Okay, so it's really simple. So let's take a look. So I started with take a look at the green lines and then find the last node and the beginning of the nodes. This is curve and it's been resampled 300 times. I can adjust this whatever I like. I think, yeah. And there's also the length of the curve. I can just shorten the curve totally. Okay, so the curve is traveling through the noise, and the noise is setting the positions of the curve. Okay, so this is set position node, and I'm using noise texture. So what's happening here, I'm using the original position of the curve, which is this guy. So this guy is actually kind of growing in the z-axis. Okay, so that's really important because we want to use the noise and then kind of changing the vector of the noise texture based on the changes in the z-axis. Okay, if I use the x-axis or the y-axis, it's just gonna be like the worm is kind of floating in on the water or the air or something. But if we actually just offset the z-axis, the worm is now traveling through the noise. It's pretty cool. And we are using the scene time multiplied by something. We can slow this or make it faster. So now we have worms that are traveling, and the worms have two heads. Suzanne head, maybe I can explain that first. So curve, resample, set position. I did a reverse on the curve, which is, this is optional. Set the curve radius, etc. Here, instance on points. And I'm using the endpoint selection because I don't want to instance Suzanne head on everything. Using this start and end set to 1, we can have a single Suzanne head being instanced at the beginning and at the end. Alright, so, and I'm using the curve tangent to control the rotations of Suzanne head. I think, yeah, okay, I think the y-axis direction of Suzanne head is probably the right way to do it. Alright, cool. I like this better. We can actually, if you want, you can play around with this number. You can have more Suzanne head along the path, but don't worry about that for now. So that's with the Suzanne head. The curve itself, of course, After the noise is controlling the position, we simply reverse the curve, set the curve radius, and there's a funky thing happening here. I'm using, so for the radius of the curve, if I adjust this, you can see the while the curve is traveling, it's actually, there's a radius. I'm controlling the radius based on the spline parameter. This is also really important if you are studying geometry nodes and curve. Spline parameters is really powerful, and you can do things like okay, I'm using ping pong math function. You can try also modulo and other, but try ping pong is like giving this wave radius value that you can adjust. So I think it's kind of interesting that way, and then you can control the multiplications, just add everything, and then this goes into the set curve radius. So a lot of nodes is like set position, set curve radius, and it's doing something to the curve. So if you're following just the green lines on the nodes, you can see, okay, it's now we are really just doing a lofting of the curve and set materials, and that's pretty much it, I think. Okay, so the worms, if you want to make it, now we can make it longer, back to the original curve, control the length of the curve. Okay, if you want to have like a nice sampling, instead of using count, let's use the length, and make sure this is like 0.1 or something. Now we can increase the length of the curve, and okay, now we have this. Maybe not too long, just long enough, so we have introduced enough variations, and then we can adjust the W of the noise. We can create duplicates, adjust the W, and also with the noise we can scale the noise so it's more chaotic. You can also use distort, maybe a little bit of distortion, and okay, there's a scale. And just, yeah, and it's like a satisfying animations. You can render this out if you are using Eevee. You can get satisfying animations. Just, yeah, you can just make this like 10,000 frames, and then you just let it play, so you have like your own wallpaper or something, screensaver, yeah, for your computer, and just play this at night. I think it's pretty cool. You can do a little bit more, just modify the setup, but that's basically how I created this like a abstract art. Yeah, double-headed worms. I've done this in the past using Spherechalk, but I think, yeah, this is using geometry nodes because it's built in Blender 3. Okay, I'm using 3.2, but it should work with 3.1 as well because all the nodes is already there. Yeah, whenever you see the complex geometry nodes like this, just look at the green lines, and that should be good. You're good to go. All right, so there you go. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.